morning, classroom. This is Dr. Annette Feravich. I am here for the first time in our Discovery Recovery classroom. I see I should have put some makeup on that giant pimple that I have over there. So we are here on day one, and we're calling it day one instead of day 373 because, of course, day 373 would be for our regular classroom. We were there for 372 days. And then today we are here on day one for Discovery Recovery. I am continuously trying to get some nutrients in me because I have not been feeling all that great with all of these pressures that have been going on around me as I put in my LinkedIn. But despite all those pressures, I'm going to keep going. One of the things about this is that when I stopped to take a break for a while because I wasn't sure what was going on and kind of to reboot myself a little bit, it seemed like matters got worse instead of better. And so I don't want to stop because I don't want things to get worse. And not that I can't take the 4 days off. It's just that I haven't been focusing on some of the things I know, which is with my psychological background. And so I really wanted to start highlighting those areas and also discover those kinds of things that I have yet to discover, which I kind of have done. I've done a few discovery things for today. Some of them have not been as pleasant as I would like, the discoveries that I've made, but they are important. I feel like they are important. One of the things that's not part of this, just to give you an idea, that's not part of today's lesson is last night I went on and I've been kind of looking for volunteer opportunities. And so last night, I feel like I found one of the volunteer opportunities that I would really like to work at. And I wanted to be volunteer, although if it turned into something more, that might be great as well. And it combines a couple things that I haven't been working on or working towards, and one of them is working with veterans. I said I wanted to work with veterans and offer them some really inexpensive services, but part of the problem is that I need to be on track and much more knowledgeable about what their journey has been. And so I looked up last night when I couldn't sleep again. I looked up last night some information on amputees and about what they're doing. And this also then helped me to discover, number one, what our military service people do. And I haven't been giving them enough credit. I could tell you the reason. The reason is because I don't know what to believe out there. And there are a lot of people who aren't happy with the United States and a lot of different things. One of the things I was reading about in the book, not our book, but the one we're reading, A Case for Christ. I'm reading A Case for Faith. And Lee Strobel had an interview with a Dr. Woodbridge, and that doctor is talking about in this chapter all of the atrocities that other countries have faced because of our ideas about manifest destiny, because of our ideas about Christianity, because of our ideas about imperialism. all three of those things, and then those atrocities across hundreds of years that people have experienced, clearly not from the United States for hundreds of years, but from imperial nations and from Christianity. And so in reading that and thinking about all these things, one of the things that I don't do is that I don't give the groups enough credit like they deserve. So for example, I have really criticized the Catholic Church in particular. Being a Catholic, or having been a Catholic, there are things that I disagree with. But that doesn't mean that they don't deserve a lot of credit. And I've said this before, in their social welfare programs, which is really where my heart is. And then that brings me to not giving enough credit to the military, and not giving enough credit to the Supreme Court, our three branches of government, and what we've tried to do here. So part of that is going to come out in today's presentation on what our body needs for your mind and your spirit to flourish. And as I'm going through this, there's a lot of the lesson that I've presented before, but as I experience new things, there's more that I've learned in a different viewpoint that I've had that I really think will likely come out. Well, I mean, that's what I'm here for, right? To talk about that. So not will likely, that will come out in today's broadcast. So let's take a look at our PowerPoint and go ahead and get started. I always have kind of a timing thing, not always, but sometimes I kind of have a timing thing. We're scheduled to be here until 11 o'clock, so for an hour and a half. Usually I go long in my regular classrooms, and so I expect to go longer than an hour today, so that's what I've scheduled. We'll see how it goes. All right. So, discovery, recovery, well, day one, you can read that. We still have the same motto, and again, I would like to say that I am working towards maintaining a system of labor that does not deny human liberty or dignity. So it's not easy when you are a social activist, and when you see problems, I speak up. But that being said, too often I get the news. I don't get the news as often, but that's what I'm relying on. I'm relying on these reports are accurate reports. And so instead of responding, though, in a way that lacks dignity, I'm trying to respond in a way that promotes flourishing of the human mind, body, and spirit. And there's a learning curve for me, because I have a tendency to speak about things that I don't know a lot about. Now, it's not that I don't do research, but when you're talking about something, researching something that is divisive, who's at fault. The only person that I really can know who's at fault, I can only know about, is me. So part of this is trying to get my classroom to teach and using this platform for sort of an extension of the DIY classroom and the philosophical classroom. So I'm calling it Discovery Recovery. And so I'm discovering things, and I'm using it to help keep me healthy, but also as a recovery instrument as well. I'll be getting into that a little bit more, but not today. So there's our main thesis for the classroom. What is Discovery Recovery all about? Well, I kind of just told you. Discovery Recovery is based on science and psychological concepts. And the recovery aspect is how you can take part in your own steps towards flourishing. All right. This is a quote from Robert F. Kennedy in 1968. It's one that I use in my positive psychology classrooms every year. And it is part of kind of like a background motto of the whole thing, right? So we've got our one from Edmund Morgan, which is our motto, which is hard for me to live up to when I'm trying to find that balance between trying to make things better and contributing to making things worse. We all have what we think are the right intentions, but intentions don't have to be respectful. And this requires respect. As you know, part of what I've been doing is trying to weed out human trafficking, trying to take an active stand against human trafficking. And I can't do it alone. That's a huge system of things. And when I think about it, when I investigate into it, it makes me upset, it makes me angry, and again, I don't know how much of the information I'm even getting is factual anymore. I could go online and I find out this information. I don't know. It's difficult to know. That's one of the reasons why I read my older books, is because a lot of times these will hopefully give me a historical reference, right? But you know, one of the things when I went online is I've seen a couple times 5-minute fail. So I went to a prayer circle, asked for a miracle, and I don't know, the prayers, I mean, there's so much double talk. There's so much double talk, and I'm part of it as well. So here I've been seeing things that are 5-minute failure, or 5-minute fail instead of 5-minute miracle. Time's up. And so that's what I get from AI. I don't know. It just doesn't feel, just feels like I'm running in place. And I don't really like this place. But I am thankful and grateful I have a roof over my head. It's just that the fear of having no control isn't being resolved by prayers or prayer books or lessons. And so that's part of the lesson that I have here too as well. I've been teaching positive psychology for a long time. I got into it for all kinds of reasons. Well, the main specific reason is to concentrate on what Robert F. Kennedy is saying here. The gross national product does not allow for the health of our children, their education, or the joy of their play. It does not include the beauty of our poetry or the strength of our marriages, the intelligence of our public debate, or the integrity of our public officials. It measures neither wit nor courage, neither our wisdom nor our teaching, neither our compassion nor our devotion to our country. It measures everything, in short, except that which makes life worthwhile. And in this game of trying to destroy me, it seems it is all about all of these other things, all about money, or not about these other things, all about the gross national product. The gross national product. And what is this? A system of labor. A system of labor. Gross national product. I certainly can't do it alone. I certainly can't do it when I've got people who are focused on the 5-minute failure instead of the 5-minute miracle. More and more, I am seeing that all of this psychobabble well, it's never been the answer. But connecting human hearts, that should be the answer. There are lots of people who don't believe in the God of the Christians. They might believe in, and I don't even like to say that. They believe in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, but that doesn't seem who the God of the Christians have elevated. But my soul shouldn't be focused on that. My soul should be, and my mind and my body should be focused on, what am I contributing there? Trash? I'm asking for a change here, but I don't offer a change here. So when I'm here, it's not simply about changing hearts. Well, it is. But my heart is included in that. Okay, so let's keep going. And these are the two charts that I have on flourishing, on what flourishing is. And so this one gives you a definition, and what this one does is it gives you some actual data that has been collected. They look at flourishing using two different kinds of language, but you can really combine them, and then you're able to see where you're at. All right? So this is the line there, that baseline there is basically what we would call flourishing. Flourishing isn't that you are thriving and doing above what other people are doing. It's that you're doing okay. You are maintaining. Let me actually see if I've got that exactly. Yeah, no, I don't. Yes, I do. There we go. Flourishing is that you are doing okay after experiencing extenuating circumstances. Sorry, I had to look that up. Some of these things are going to be whatever, a little bit, well, like it usually is in my classroom. Hunt and peck. So those are the two conditions for flourishing. I can't tell if you're flourishing if you haven't experienced hardships. And so that's what started also me thinking as I was preparing this and doing self-examination. I do know I do self-examination. I am not, because I teach this doesn't mean I'm exempt from any of it. That's the reason for this class. That's the reason for some of the things I've talked about outside of the simple teaching lessons that I've been teaching. And so one of the things I discovered for this class is that it's probably really hard to hear from somebody who hasn't experienced the events that so many others have experienced. And now I have. And now are you flourishing, Annette? Are you able to take your own advice from positive psychology and turn your emotions around from these negative, ruminating emotions? Are you able to use the skills you teach to turn that around and flourish? So those are the two things you need to know and examine if you're flourishing. You need to have some environmental events that you need to overcome, and you need to be doing okay. I would have to say, on that note, that here I've got survival with impairment. I haven't been able to get my emotions regulated. And part of that is I haven't been using a lot of my own advice. So this is a discovery recovery for you, as I said, but it's a discovery recovery for me as you watch me kind of try and get back to just the baseline. Just doing okay. I was up last night for most of the night. That's survival with impairment. When I'm here in the classroom, I'm doing okay. And that's another reason why I don't want to quit the classroom. That's another reason why I added another classroom. When I'm in the classroom, I'm doing okay. When I'm not in the classroom, and I know, how do you break up the day? Well, you take the necessary steps to help you get up to that baseline. You can see succumbing is, I'm underwater. I'm being tested, and I feel like I'm being tested on the things that I ask you to accept. And that's fair. As I was reading about amputees and the prosthetics that are out there are just so incredibly amazing. And so you could see where somebody would be succumbing if they had that kind of trauma. But I also see how that person would be a mentor, an example, an inspiration. And so that's part of the reason why I wanted to volunteer in that area, to learn something about who and what is truly inspiring. Sitting here talking and listening to my own words, seeing a big goose egg out there, not inspiring. And I don't mean for me, I mean I must not be inspiring you. And so I know that really not making the focus about me, but giving of myself and my time and my efforts for others. I am doing this for others, but if people aren't inspired, I'm doing something wrong. And that has been, I can't say that hasn't been evident. It's absolutely been evident I'm doing something wrong. Let's take a look at this other chart over here. Now, what this chart is showing is, I have to get that up there so I can see it a little better. There are similar outcomes, but they name them something different. And they're also not looking at the positive side like they're looking at here. They're looking at the negative side here. Now, one of the things I want to also talk about, I'm writing this down right now because I'm not sure if I'll be able to get it in here, but it is definitely important, and that is my own dissertation. One of the things that is in my dissertation is that we end up making a difference when we have positive feedback. We end up not caring about our effort when we have negative feedback or no feedback. And that is a really important outcome of that dissertation. When we have negative feedback, we're like, whatever. I'll go do something else. We don't ingest it necessarily, but certainly it can build up in our systems. That's one of the problems with what I'm going through. This has a 2-year cycle. So it's looking at an event, just like here. An event happened here. Well, actually right here, the event happened. Now, here, let's go this way. Now, what is going on, right? After the event, now what is going on? Here we have the event, and this is talking about depression, as opposed, this is talking about flourishing. This is talking about depression. So those people who are resilient, and I'm calling it flourishing right now, who are doing okay, who are producing, they're at the bottom here, and the depression indices are at the top there. So we've got people who are in chronic depression at the very top. Here's the event, and over time, they don't get any better. The next one is delayed, so that you have the event, and then later on, you end up experiencing the mental, physical, spiritual illness, delayed. The third one there is recovery. So that is, I have experienced the event, and then I came back after a couple years. And resilience is, you barely experienced the event right there. And you kept going. Now, there are events in my life where I could say I was resilient. But there's a lot of things that go along with that. But not anymore. I'm hoping for this recovery, but I'm not there yet. And that's because I haven't had one event. I've had a traumatic event every year for the last 5 years. And if that doesn't feel put upon, I don't know what does. So for you people who are joking out there, 5-minute failure or 5-minute fail, that's just effortful trauma. That's just piling on. That's what you're doing. You're just piling on. People who are playing games with my feelings, people who are trying to and openly said they want to destroy my spirit after all of these events, that's simply just piling on. That being said, I don't know all the events that are going on in people's lives. And I know I've expected them to pay attention to mine and help me out. And when they didn't, I was piling on. Discovery, recovery. Okay. This is a flourishing scale. So I have put my own scores there. I don't know why I had to have another page to put my own scores there. So, I've led a purposeful and meaningful life. That is, I agree. I have 6 points for that. I do agree with that. I've tried to live a purposeful and meaningful life, whether or not people want to hear about it or engage in it or cooperate with me. None of those things seem to be true. You know, unless you're trying to demonstrate what you want to about positive psychology, which is possible. If I expect universities to teach this, and if I expect people to listen, then it has to be more than just tooting my own horn about what I know. It has to really work. But that's been my purpose. And I get meaning from it. I get meaning from other things too. I have my 5 purposes that I've talked about, right? Being a mother, being a psychologist, being spiritual, being a woman, and being a teacher. Not in that order. So those are the things that add meaning to my life. And when those things in my identity are wiped out one at a time, it doesn't mean I don't have a meaningful life. I have a meaningful and purposeful led life. It just means I'm not very successful at it. It seems. My social relationships are supportive and rewarding. No, they're not. I gave that a 2. Just like I said, I have a purposeful and meaningful life, but if people aren't listening to me, that has everything to do with my relationships. And I have taken responsibility. I don't believe other people have for the trauma that they've contributed to, the piling on in my life that they've contributed to. 5-minute fail. Seen that on more than one video. And that was when I was looking for things to do for the exercise coming up. Number 3, I am engaged and interested in my daily activities. I put a 5 there. I slightly agree. That is, when I'm active in the classroom, I'm engaged. I like it. But when I'm not here in the classroom, and you know, part of that is, am I inspiring people? I could do more of the classroom as I'm doing, and then I would be more engaged in my daily activities, but I am of retirement age. It would be nice to have the rewards or the fruits around me of my hard work. And I don't think that my motives were all selfishly driven, all about Annette, like a lot of people are saying or have said to me. We don't want you to speak at your husband's memorial service because you're going to make it all about you. Really? Because I think the death of Stuart has a lot to do with me. A lot. The death of my husband has a lot to do with me. People didn't come there to hear from people who weren't part of Stuart's life for the majority of time. But that's what happened. People I barely knew spoke at his memorial. I was happy that they spoke. I don't know. I don't know. I actively contribute to the happiness and well-being of others. I just put neither agree or disagree. I don't know. Do I feel like I put a burden on my sons? Yes, I do. Somebody wrote, pay attention. Lame deer has been elevated to a status above Jesus. Is that because they're dealing with me? They have to care for me? This is an impossible task? I don't know. I am competent and capable in the activities that are important to me. What did I put on that one? 6, I hope. Yes, I did. Okay. I am a good person and live a good life. 6 there as well. I do agree. I agree. I'm not over the top. I haven't strongly agreed with anything. I don't strongly agree I'm a good person, but most of us think that we're good people and that we live good lives, so agreeing with that statement shouldn't be surprising. I am optimistic about my future. I slightly disagree. Oh, I put both of them up there. Whoops. I slightly disagree. I disagree. I'm not optimistic about my future. I thought that these hurdles wouldn't come one after the other. There wouldn't be such a barrage of all of this, and there is. It's just piling on. And although there's nothing I could do about my husband's death, this piling on is just vicious. My piling on of others has been vicious. And now I hear Rodney King saying, can't we all just get along? People respect me. No, I disagree with that too. People don't respect me. When they're piling on their comments, the things that gets filtered into my feed demonstrate people don't respect me. And I'm likely not a lot different than a lot of other women. Women who get political are disrespected. And part of that probably is we don't know exactly what's going on. So we need to be quiet about it. But when you hear that children are being separated, families are being separated, people are being trafficked, it's the women who are going to speak up. And as I told my son, that's all we have. The only thing we have. I can't fight other than with my voice. I've always been a social justice warrior. We are not battling what? but power, but principalities, something like that from scripture. And that's what women do. Battle the principalities. It's just feeling like a no-win situation. As I'm sure a lot of other people have felt as well. Mostly vulnerable populations. It's a no-win situation. When I was at McClay, the wisest thing that was said was by somebody who's talking underneath their voice half the time. Saying, well, now you get to see it from the inside. Now I just don't talk about whether these things work to make you better in your mind, your body, and your spirit. Come on. Oh, there we go. Now I just don't get to talk about whether it does. Now I'm in it. Now I've got some skin in the game. Does it work? Nothing works if you have a system that allows people to pile on to senior citizens who are widows. They allow you to do that? You feel like it's a game, you're winning? Same thing with me. Do you think when you send those texts, that's a game you're winning, Annette? Because it's not. So this is the interactive, well, it's not an interactive, these are interrelated map of what we call psychoneuroimmunology. So understanding flourishing. How do you get to flourish? Well, these are the three elements: psychology, neurology, and immunology. Psychoneuroimmunology. So this is your health outcome. And all of these things are dynamic. The arrow goes both ways. So if I have a virus and I'm feeling sick, it changes my brain and it changes my thinking, or it changes my neurology, my chemistry, my brain chemistry, and it changes my thinking. I mean, I know when I feel ill, really ill, I'm just like, toss in the towel. I cannot deal with this. But I haven't felt really ill in decades. Now I'm feeling like there are chemical changes in my brain that are going to affect my body because of all of the psychological stress. So I have a virus, something physical it affects. If I change my brain chemistry, now that is something I wouldn't want to change with synthetics. And that's what the medication is. It's synthetic medication. They're not using natural means to change the chemistry of your brain. And that's what I am an advocate for. And that's what positive psychology is all about, trying to change that chemistry in your brain naturally by being active, by exercising. You can see, or let me put it this way, you can't see here right now the effects of everything that was going on and how it affected me last night, that I was up most of the night. That I feel a burning sensation on my arms, which makes me think of amputees. And then I remember or start remembering bits and pieces of information. That for me, when I get under duress, when I'm being drugged, I push out of my mind because it's not healthy for me to wonder and worry about and try and what? But then when the effects of that become, I lost my job, I don't know where my kids are, I don't know about their health and well-being, they aren't relating to me, what's going on in their lives, that also then ends up changing my brain chemistry. And what do? I think about it, I think about it, I think about it, changing my chemistry, changing my body. My body changes, I feel this tingling in my arms, I worry and think about punishment, repercussions. Should I shut up completely? But when I'm here, it's the only time that this seems to be in balance. Not the only time, but a lot of it, I mean, it does seem to be in balance. So you're not seeing the effects of the rest of it. So giving you an idea of how positive behaviors can really work to change these things. And then making an effort is really necessary. Yeah. I feel like I'm drinking this coconut water and I put some salt in it. And I'm feeling actually that is probably not the best thing to do. Like that probably is raising my blood pressure somewhat. It was recommended to get my electrolytes up, which is what I wanted to do, get my electrolytes up. But it seems to be maybe counterproductive. Now, this is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Most people are probably familiar with this. And these are the things then that end up contributing to I'm thinking about the salt and how it's affecting me actually. And that's just, again, when you get information from the internet, it becomes such a guessing game. And part of the thing that I haven't been doing is I haven't been giving science and scientists and medicine enough credit. There is, if you look at what they're doing with amputees, That is just extraordinary. And I would like to see it with my own eyes. But on the other hand, we have Amish people, and I watched a video, that have been doing well without their medicine and lived into their 90s. That too is a life that I wouldn't mind. That simple life and not being all wrapped up in anything but your farm and your family. Yeah, I'm gonna, I think that salt is bothering me. And that's what you do to regulate. When you've got things that are piling on, you try and focus on this one, and is this working? How about this? What about that? So for just a moment, I'm going to get some water. Let you take a look at this, and I'm going to be right back. All right, so the very first thing that we need in flourishing is we need to be able to make sure that our needs are being met. And here we can see that we've got what many of us can have our basic needs being met, which is what I have right now. But I don't know how they're being met. I don't know anything about who's paying for what, how it's getting paid for, what are my finances. So the rest of those needs are not being met. And there's just no way a person can flourish if they don't feel safe. I've said it a lot. I do not feel safe. And that's because I don't know what the future holds, because I don't know where my finances are, and I don't know what happened. Now, I could figure things out, but I don't know if I'm right without any family around me to really help me correct my behavior. There's innuendos. I know the difference between right and wrong, but I don't know why this barrage and you know, it's hard to take a lot of times. This is your own fault. You acted like you were invincible. You're not above the law. So those things are hard. And your words have consequences. So when you're running around correcting everybody else, I need to think about what that's doing for me and to me. So the rest of those, do I have esteem? Yeah, I still have esteem because I have meaning and purpose in my life. So there's esteem, but I don't feel like I'm loved. Five-minute fail instead of 5-minute miracle. There's your feed. I can work towards meaning and purpose, but it goes nowhere if I don't feel safe. So there, for our physiology, we've got breathing, food, water, sex, sleep, homeostasis, which is balance, and then getting rid of the waste. Well, I've got excretion down. I've got water down, and that's about it. My breathing gets abnormal at nighttime. I'm not having any sex. There's chemicals in our food. And so that leaves me sleepless and without balance, without homeostasis. Safety. Security of the body, of employment, of resources, of morality, of the family, of health, of property. I have none of those. None of them. Friendships, no. Family, no. Sexual intimacy, no. None of those. Self-esteem, yes. Confidence, yes. Achievement, to some degree, yes. In the past, absolutely. Respect of others. Do I have respect of others? A lot less than I should. Am I respected by others? A lot less than I should be or need. Self-actualization, morality, yeah. Creativity, yes. Spontaneity, yes. Problem solving, yes. Lack of prejudice, yes. Acceptance of the facts. I try, yeah. I'd have to say yes when I'm presented with the facts. But people have been lying about the facts. I can't even know if my sons are safe because people have been lying about the facts. So, and I'm trying to accept the fact that I've contributed to this. But all this is hard. You can't do it without your family and your friends around you. And I lost my friends over politics. And I lost my family over politics. And I wasn't even that politically outspoken, although when I lost my friends. And it really wasn't that. I withdrew from them because I couldn't talk about with them the vaccines. Yeah, I couldn't talk about that with them honestly about the vaccines, about what COVID was doing. And I'm like, if I can't even talk about these things that are important as a health psychologist, then I'm out of our thread. They were there for Stewart's memorial service. We had a lot of people for Stewart's memorial service. A lot of people for COVID. Not for what he deserved. I would have expected when my husband passed 1,000 people there. I couldn't even get the church to help out. Okay. Now, this is understanding nature and nurture. And so you can see here, what we've got is we've got a scale at the bottom here. This would be the x-axis. So, and then here on the side, you are looking at, let's just expand that. So depression, self-reported depression, suicide attempts, other people saying that you're depressed, and the probability of a major depressive episode. So all of these are just different ways of looking at depression. I don't have self-reported depression. I get sad, but it's not depressed. It is circumstantial, and I have no way that I can figure out how to get out of it. So that caused people to inform on me. So that one is quite different. Probability of suicide. You know, when you don't have family or friends around you, life does become empty. What are we doing here? And that's a pretty natural thought. So, and then this last one, probability of a major depression episode. All right, so that's what we're looking at. And then here at the bottom here, it says number of stressful events. So we can see when you have 1 or 2 stressful events, no big deal. But when you have 4 or more, that's when people start experiencing depression. And so that's exactly what it looks like pharmaceutical companies are banking on for me. The barrage of stressful events along with the idea that, let's see how well your positive psychology, Annette, is going to change the events in your life. And here's the thing. Do I believe positive psychology can change the events in my life? Yes, I do. Unless somebody's paid money to make sure that they don't change. If you're paid money to make sure that in my feed, I get the opposite of a 5-minute miracle, I get a 5-minute failure. Let's see if you call out Jesus, 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 and if he comes. And you know, it's that kind of thinking that's coming through the feed. So stay off the computer. Well, I am looking up information. That's where I get my information from. I don't have any of my psychology. Well, I don't have my great big psychology textbooks. So I don't know. And then this last one takes a look at specifically maltreatment. And right now, I would have to say it's pretty severe, the maltreatment. And I think that my coping skills are good. But if you're continuously under the barrage of maltreatment, that's a different story. Now, what you have here is an LL, an SL, and an SS. And each one of these measures, that's what they're looking at. So this is nature and nurture, and the nature is the events. What did I say? The nurture. The nurture is the events. That's the environment, right? In fact, I could have called that genes and environment. So there, 0 through 4, that's the nurture, that's the environment. And the SS, SL, and LL are the genes that they studied. They're called alleles, is what in this study. So there are short alleles, and you get 2 alleles, one from your dad and one from your mom. And so you can have 2 short alleles, you can have 1 short and 1 long allele, or you can have 2 long alleles. So that's the LL, 2 long alleles. That is your DNA. Now, how they exactly looked at those alleles, That's a complex process. And a lot of times, this is the part of the science that really can get to be very biased. If somebody wants this outcome, they can surely find this outcome. But I'm going to present this, and this is by Caspi, A. Caspi, from 2003. I've got references that I'll show you that are coming up. Okay? And so we've got two long alleles. When you have two long alleles, are you going to experience an increase in some depression? That's the red line. Yes. But it is, your DNA is preventing you from really upping that depression because of the number of stressful life events. So that's two long alleles. What if I have one short and one long? That's the blue line there. It increases, but not as much as if I had two short alleles that are related to depression. So basically, it's saying, do you have a genetic predisposition to get depressed? And I would have to say I have two long alleles. Can it happen? Well, yeah, it can happen. I also have the informant here, putting me in McLaren. She might harm somebody else, or she might harm herself. But that's really all that I have on there. I haven't had a major depressive episode. I haven't had self-reported depression at all. And as far as suicidal attempts, right? No, not at all. Do I feel like what I'm doing is measured as worthless? Why am I doing it? Yes. But you can see that one is a really murky area. And then here, the same thing when you have severe maltreatment. If you have two long alleles, it doesn't increase depression. So that's the combination. Those are the combinations necessary, both genes and environment. We can increase our depression somewhat. Certainly those scores that I showed you on Flourishing used to be higher. But having to know who to trust, figuring it out yourself, that's been hard. Oh, I already showed that one. Now, this is called the Social Readjustment Rating Scale. And so you can see that there are life events, the death of a spouse. I've had that. This is life event inventory is for those things that have happened in the past year. Now, none of these have happened in the past year. So I used a scoring method that for two ways. Has it happened in the last, I think I did 2 years And then in the last 5 years, because I lost my husband. So all of these are what I've taken over the last 5 years, which I think is pretty important. If you've had all these major life events, divorce. Now that was actually in 2013. But I'm not trying to boost my score. If anything, I want to lower my score. But to think about the barrage of environmental stressful life events, I think is important. And these scores. Marital separation, no. Jail term, I put a jail term up there because I was locked up in a mental health facility. That shouldn't be contributing to the downfall to that extent. Number 4 on the list. And then you put them in a mental health facility and expect them to get better against their will and against the evidence. Again, that's bearing false witness against your neighbor. That's what that is. Death of a close family member. Whoops. Illness or injury. You got married. So all of these stressful life events may not just be positive life event or negative life events rather. They can be positive life events as well, like getting married. That's a stressful time. Absolutely. This sweater is too warm. Let's get through this so we don't go too much past our time. But I want to get through everything. So, fired from job. Marital reconciliation, retirement. I could put retirement up there too. Change in the health of a family member, pregnancy, sex difficulties. You gain a family member, a business change. It's going to happen in the near future. And that's going to be stressful because of all these circumstances. Will I be able to see my granddaughter? Changes in finance. Yes. Death of a close friend. Change in the line of work. I don't think I put that one down there because it actually hasn't changed. Change in the number of arguments you're having. Mortgage is over $20,000. Foreclosure on your home. Change in work responsibilities. Child leaving home. Trouble with the in-laws. Outstanding achievement. Your spouse starts or stops work. You begin or end school. You have a change in living. Yes. You revise your habits. I've had to revise my habits because of this job loss. Trouble with your boss, change in work hours, change in residence. Oh, I have both of those, change in work hours and change in residence. I could probably take that one change in work hours off. Change in recreation, change in church, change in being socially active. I put that one. Mortgages less than $20,000. You have a change in sleep habits. You have a change in the number of get-togethers. That's not really a change. Change in eating habits. Vacation. Christmas is coming. Minor law violation. And my total is 499. The revised total is if I take off those top 2 because they were a while ago. So that's 326. And if we take a look at the outcome of these, the outcome is related to health. So here's the entire inventory scale. And there's the outcome. The body is a finely timed instrument that does not like surprises. Any sudden change in stimuli, which affects the body, or the reordering of important routines that the body becomes used to, can cause needless stress, throwing your whole physical being into turmoil. The following chart will give you some idea of how to informally score yourself on the social readjustment scale. Since being healthy is the optimum state you want to achieve, being sick is the state of being you most want to avoid. So 300 plus score, the likelihood of getting ill in the near future, about 80%. Now again, this is looking for in the past year, right? Has occurred in the past year or is expected in the near future. So my score wouldn't be this high. I would be closer to about the 50% mark here. A 50-50 chance. Score is under 150, about a 30% chance. So it sounds like everybody has at least a 30% chance of getting ill. Cha-ching. Okay. So what's the answer? And that's something that we're going to come to as we come into our next class. What I wanted to show you next was an exercise. So we're going to be doing exercises, and this would be helpful then. I'm actually going to animate that just because it's a lot easier for you to grasp when they come in one at a time. All right, so this is from Pressman and Kraft. This is from a book which is Activities for Teaching Positive Psychology that I have. And this is where the rubber hits the road, right? Is what you're preaching about really true? So what you want to do is download a heart rate monitor app, which is what I did, and it will register your heart rate. So I'm going to go quick get that. Hold on one second. It's on my phone. So here is the heart rate app that I downloaded, and I'm pressing start. Now watch as I do some breathing. That's normal for me. 82 beats per minute is normal for me. Now I'm getting... Okay, let's try it. Okay, what I wanted to do here is I wanted to start a breathing exercise. And that's what I did. And I lowered my heart rate. So that's what we want to do, is we want to I measured it yesterday too. And it was about 81 beats per minute. So that's what we want to do. I don't know what the ad is there for. Okay. To get started, and then there are 2 exercises from Press and Craft that you might want to try. The first one is, and you could do these in any order, find something that makes you laugh. It could be a short laughing exercise, which I find to be a little silly, but okay. Or maybe a video. Babies laughing always makes me laugh, but that's also where I got the feed that was 5-minute fail. So I don't know. And I don't know, kind of, you could tell they were fake, some of them. Some of them sounded like a baby crying instead of laughing. So I don't know. But I did find one a long time ago that I couldn't find again, where the baby was sincerely laughing, and it was about 4 minutes long, so it wasn't a very short video. It was a longer video, so you could start getting into the laughter. And I had my whole class laughing. I mean, I didn't, the baby did. So that's something that you might want to think about too for the exercise. Something that would make you laugh, but if it's not a continuous laughing, I don't know. You could see if it works. It's up to you, how you want to do this exercise, right? If it's not a continuous laughing, I don't know how much it's going to affect your heart, right? But you could find that out. I would probably do maybe a stand-up comedy, since I can't find a short version of a sincere baby's laugh. Complete a gratitude meditation. Before you begin, write down a list of things for which you are grateful. I recommend finding a video with calming pictures and music. There's a link there. Or you can find a guided gratitude meditation. There's another link there. So if you prefer the yoga kind of style of a guided meditation, you can use that. And that link there gives you 10 minutes, 12 minutes, 20-minute videos, whatever you want to do. I suggest that, and this is what I'm going to do, is listen to the calming music, watch the video for the calming pictures. That's the link I have there for you. And beforehand, I'm going to write down all the things I'm grateful for. And these now are harder because of all of the things that I've got worrying me about what is going on. It's been much harder for me as I was preparing this to even decide to look into this. I'm like, oh no. So that's the reason why. And when I looked at the guided meditation, the guided gratitude meditation, it was like, this doesn't make me grateful. It's just a regular yoga project. So that's the reason why I said, write down the things you're grateful for, and then those things you can meditate on. And don't forget what we always say. meditate on those things that are, is this the one? No. Not there, not there. Oh, I can't find it. Pure and good. Oh, here it is, in Trevor Noah's book. And just and lovely and praiseworthy. So those are things that you can write down, because, you know, if I don't have my relationships or my family in order, I can be grateful that I have, you know, a family, but it can also sadden me right now. So I'm going to be looking at nature. I am grateful for my boys. I am grateful that I'm going to be a grandmother soon, even though there is stress that comes along with that as well. So that's why I think it's a good idea to write them down, so I have something that I can meditate on without trying to sadden myself. I've already gone through I can't be grateful for that. I can't be grateful for that when I've done that list. And then what are you doing? Take a heart rate before starting the exercise and then again afterwards. And as you can see, a breathing exercise is good, but we want to look at some activities is what we want to do. What I'm testing out for me is to see whether or not what I preach on is actually working. And part of me is coming to the conclusion that, well, there's a couple things. If I get out there and get my eyes off of myself and volunteer, that would probably be pretty helpful. These kinds of 5-minute exercises, when you've had a barrage of stressful environmental events, they can help my heart rate for a minute or two, maybe, but not for the full day. Okay. And then those are all of my references. We went over by about 10 minutes. So I went over about 10 minutes. This is Dr. Annette Feravich. Thank you so much for joining me here in the classroom. This classroom is our newest classroom. It is Discovery Recovery. And what I'm really doing is informing you about positive health psychology and actually testing out these theories after having a barrage of stressful events. Let's see what works. Thanks for joining me here in the classroom, where I am always coming up with ideas to help our mind, our body, and our spirit become healthier. Thanks.